in this video.
Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Ted, hanging out with some of the colleagues here.
Dave.
Nate.
And today we're going to do D&D monsters. And we're going to bring you the Kraken. Release the Kraken!
And that's page 196 and 197.
Because this monster is so legendary, he needs 2 pages to bring it all to you. So, we had a viewer request for this. And, so let's talk about it. Krakens.
All right, so... Yeah, the viewer was Wisp. I think it might have even been a I'm not positive, but it might have been a Twitter request from Wisp. And what they asked for us to do legendary monsters like Kraken or Tarrasque, and I was like, well, we don't normally do those because we don't find them as nearly as useful for most people. And he's like, but it would be interesting,
just to get our take.
Yeah, I would enjoy hearing about it. So we're like, all right, we'll do the Kraken. These things are freaking horrible.
All right, so for starters, our games that we run, we usually stick to the lower levels. Very rarely in our games do we get into the high levels where you would be encountering this type of stuff. We've run a couple serious power games over the years just to test it out and increase our knowledge base on how to do it. But usually this ain't it. 27 d20 plus 189 hit points. That's a lot of hit points,
especially in this edition where you don't do quite as much damage. Yeah, I mean, not only that, when a Kraken appears in your game, it will it is one of the few monsters that can change the world. I almost feel like even more so than dragons.
Well, I think so.
Well,
I think
dragons at least got to put a bit of effort into destroying an entire city. Well, I feel like a Kraken wakes up and yawns and stretches and does that.
All right. Let's look at their regional effect. They control the weather at will in a 6-mile radius centered on their lair. So wherever they choose to lair, they've got control out to 6 miles. That is huge. It's like, I'm going to lair near a port city, and it's just going to rain on them nonstop. Okay, well,
lightning storm nonstop.
Well, I was starting off small.
It's going to rain fire nonstop.
So that's gonna seriously impact. I
don't even think that's the worst thing for the regional effects.
Well, like I said, I was starting off small.
Yeah.
The further you go down these lists, the crazier it gets. So you've got water elementals, coalesce into the lair.
It just spawns them. No. 6 miles, within 6 miles of the lair.
Aquatic creatures within 6 miles of the lair have an intelligence score of 2 or less, are charmed
and hostile
and become aggressive towards intruders. So it's building
for
all
6
these
miles
defense.
to get to the Kraken's lair. You have to traverse 6 miles of pissed off fish and water elementals.
Yep.
They just appear. It doesn't even give a number for the water elementals.
No,
it just says they just form.
They're there.
There's a bunch. It's a swarm.
It's a swarm of elementals.
So, again, more power to the GM. He can do as much or as little as he wants.
But, and again, one of the great things about this edition is the flavor text. And I just love love the idea of when it talks about the Kraken can breathe water and air, and they're known to sometimes crawl up a river, and find a lake to basically inhabit and lair in. But they destroy everything
in
on
their
the way. So but think about it, right? It could totally wipe out settlements, cities, towns on its way to the lair, because these things are like all legendary monsters. They all need to slumber for an eon or something.
Right. Well, otherwise, no, there would be it would be Mad Max and Dark Sun.
Only worse.
Only worse with that thing rolling.
So literally its path, right? Which you could name, you could give it some kind of cryptic name or ominous name, and people don't even know why it's called that. But all they know is there's ruins from the ocean to this lake, where and at this point things are probably rebuilt, and there's things that are built up around it as part of, maybe built right out of the previous bones of these long dead civilizations, or around it are places that people won't go anymore because they say they're haunted or whatever, because there's a half a city that's left on the one bank of this river, and people won't even go in it. It's just got that kind of creepy feel or whatever, and maybe it's because there's monsters there now, but
it travels 20 20 feet, destroys everything around it. Travels 20 feet, destroys everything around it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and so like you could build like these monsters are perfect for building up, a whole mythos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're when they're in a region, they're going to affect the region.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're slumbering, I imagine those regional effects are still there.
Oh, absolutely.
So like maybe depending on what it's dreaming about affects the weather. Regardless of that, if you try to get close to its lair, you're going to be attacked by the wildlife that's in the water.
And if you don't know about the creature, maybe that could start, the quest of figuring out, well, why are all the natural wildlife in this area so aggressive? What if you have a natural character, ranger, druid, whatever?
Minnows usually love me.
And it's like, well, why am I being attacked by these creatures that would normally just be, docile and peaceful?
So it's basically foreshadowing, or the crazy changes in weather that don't make sense, or why is there a swarm of elementals?
So I got a question. So aquatic creatures, I was checking to see if that included crocodiles because they can breathe, hold their breath and all that kind of stuff. I guess they just mean creatures that breathe water all the time. As for the aquatic.
Well, I guess I don't know if aquatic is actually a subtype.
Yeah, that's what. Well, it says aquatic creatures like creatures that swim. Like what's the requirement for like what kind of creatures? If it layers in a lake.
As the GM, it's your call.
Yeah, I think as a GM it is your call unless unless there is actually a subtype for that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if there is or not. So as a GM it's your call.
Well,
a quipper isn't an aquatic creature, and that is a fish.
There's nothing that says aquatic under shark either.
All right, well
so therefore,
DM's call.
DM's crocodiles, Everglades, it is.
It could very well be, and a swamp would definitely be a really cool place to place a Kraken.
Now,
not so much for your players, but
No, the terrible place to find out though from there.
So now the great part about this is if you're gonna put something like this in your world, you want to build it up. You want to.
This is a major campaign arc.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have something like this be a grand finale,
or is it a random encounter, Nate?
You want to have something.
Depends. Do you want to end the campaign?
0 random encounter.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to have something like this be a grand finale if you're actually going to do it. You want a massive build up. You want a huge story that's supporting it, so that your adventurers who are being built up over this long story that are gonna eventually find this thing, they're going in well prepared, or at least they think well prepared, and it's up to you to woefully treat them that, oh well, you're not as prepared as you think.
Dude, totally like this whole build up until you finally get to the big bad, which is the Kraken, and then but he's like, you've defeated me, but now my master comes. It's fucking Cthulhu.
So you could definitely do that. And the other thing that you can do with legendary creatures is, since they are so epic, so massively powerful,
legendary,
if you will, is bend, twist, reshape them into something unique and powerful for your world. That it's going to mirror this. You don't want to just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to double everything and make them, unkillable. No, but change things visually, change things thematically, so that it'll fit, your world, and fit the mythos that you have created, and possibly change it enough that your players who might sit like others and just read through this book, cover to cover, they aren't going to know what they're dealing with.
Visually, the Kraken in this book looks like some kind of weird dragonfish octopus.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a dragon sharktopus, essentially. Right? I'm not really that fond of this visualization of it in the M&M. In previous editions, it really has just been basically a giant octopus squid.
Right. I actually prefer this version. I think it makes it stand out a little bit more.
It's monstrous and twisted.
It's Dungeons and Dragons, and they made it look a little bit more draconic. And I gotta say, I like dragons.
then there's also Clash of the Titans, which really was a completely different vision of the Kraken. Where that really kind of looked like it looked like a kaiju-sized Sahagin, really. You know, 4 arms, very mermanish, merfolkish looking. You know, not from the mermaids or the D&D, but of other fish hybrids. He definitely kind of had that
like
look.
the Moreau look to it, right?
Yeah, even creature from the Black Lagoon. But the thing was huge. It was epic. It was going to wipe out. It was going to create tidal waves and stuff and just wipe out cities. So they're just examples that you could use. Like there's 3 different versions of a Kraken. You could pick one of those or create your own.
Right.
It doesn't have to look like anything. Maybe your Kraken is, the biggest manta ray you could ever even think of. With basically its spine tail. It's with one swipe of that thing. That could wipe out half a city by itself. Maybe it can leap into the air and glide. The thing is so huge.
Or its fins end in a whole bunch of sharp tentacles or something.
Yeah, or it could be like bony razor ridges, along the wings.
You could have your version that's totally crocodilian,
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking about the crocodile for the purposes of
controlling crocodiles.
yeah, having all the crocodiles bite people's faces off.
What if it was
It could just be a giant crocodile though, with some additions, maybe some extra limbs, maybe
some tentacles shooting out of its back or something.
Yeah, like a Displacer Beast
Yeah.
style crocodile.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculously large.
So like I would definitely, first off, you need to reinvent the image so that players don't really fully grasp what they're dealing with. You could describe it as Cthulhu. I mean,
Yeah.
these things are kind of epic enough that you could definitely take inspiration from Lovecraft and some of his giant monstrosities.
absolutely.
Would work very well.
So with that, you reshape it, and make it your own, and give it a rich culture and the plot arc that it deserves, because you don't want to have this thing be a one encounter and done. You don't want your players to just mow through it and grab its XP.
It's going to
and move
operate
on.
through proxies.
You're going to have proxies. You're going to have minions. You're going to have servants. You're going to have worshippers.
Cults.
Cults.
I could definitely see, like a warlock, with these guys having warlocks. Maybe not a ton of them, but maybe, maybe the originator of a cult or the leader of a cult is actually a warlock, and it generates its power from a Kraken. You could have someone that's Kraken blooded, and, by that I mean Storm Sorcerer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely different ways. You could incorporate a player character who's a sorcerer, Storm Origin. Maybe the Kraken is basically the origin of their sorcerer powers, so you can connect them. Maybe the Kraken.
He's a familiar of the Kraken.
Possibly, but yeah, I think we're getting into an evil campaign then.
Well, in 3rd edition, there was actually a prestige class. I mean, I know it was for Tarask, but they're both legendary creatures. It was called Waker of the Beast.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So-
you could apply that to something like this. But what if your character, whether it be a warlock or a sorcerer, what if they are plagued by these dreams, and really what the dreams are having is they're sharing the Kraken's dreams as it slumbers,
Or memories.
or memories, and basically this party, because mainly because of that one player, they're basically on a collision course with the Kraken at some point. Maybe something happens where if it's a slumbering Kraken, the party does something that wakes it up. And then later on, further down in the campaign arc, they'll actually start dealing with the repercussions of that.
Sounds like a pretty awesome quest.
Well, yeah, that's the quest. That's a campaign.
Well, yeah.
Krakens, they're campaign makers. That's a long story arc based around that. Because let's face it, what's the CR on a Kraken?
23.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
So you literally need to be 20th level party just to contend with this thing.
And some of you might die.
And some of you might die.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at just the combat effectiveness of it, and it is pretty mighty. Plus 18 to hit, 30-foot reach.
We were actually talking about this. The Now, if you guys have power gamed it higher, let me know. But take a warrior mage. You only need one level of fighter, one level of wizard to pull it off, or sorcerer. But you have full plate, you have a shield, defensive fighting. Your full plate is +3, your shield is +3. So you've got 2 super epic items, and you've cast a shield spell. That puts you at a 32 armor class. And this guy only needs a 14 to hit you.
Have you guys counted a cloak of resistance or cloak of protection and winter protection? Could be a 34.
Okay,
All right.
we get up to a 34.
So 16 plus. So,
So
you
yeah,
actually
so-
reduced it whenever you decide to use a first level spell. You actually reduced it to only a 25% chance to hit.
Doesn't
you.
a haste spell give you a +2 to armor class too?
It does.
Oh, that's a blanket plus too. So if you're
Yeah.
hasted, so a hasted Eldritch Knight
With shield.
with shield spell.
And the best shield and armor you can get.
Yeah.
And
So if you totally just build your character to
take
do
a
armor
beating.
class,
Yeah.
you can get into 4 to 6 points beyond impossible, and then it makes these guys really difficult to hit.
so,
Yeah.
but what is that? That's a 34.
Yeah.
So that's a 34. It gets a +18. It still only needs a 16.
Yeah.
It gets 3 shots at
But
it.
if you use the haste as well, then it brings it up to a 36.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
3 shots at
So he
that,
needs an
yeah.
18.
18.
Yeah, so it's actually really well. I mean, then with that person, he would probably just
lightning storm
them, make them vulnerable, and then lightning storm.
Yeah.
Because with the 22 intelligence, he's gonna know what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, tin can. I think you need to be lightning to death.
Well, and let's face it, shield only lasts a round.
Yeah, you'd have to burn them all because, you get it for that first tentacle attack, and if he attacked you 2 more times, it's kind of a waste. But
After that initial attack, then after that round, and shield goes away. That's a 13. It's also occupying your reaction every round as well.
Right.
So the other thing I was thinking about them that's very interesting is with a 30-foot reach, the rogue cannot come in, strike, and then leave, and then disengage. He doesn't have enough movement
Yep.
oh well, yeah.
to get out of its range. Yeah, for melee attacks anyway.
Right.
And it's kind
You're
of
screwed,
weird with
swashbuckler.
range for something like this because we were talking about actually hitting it with swords and stuff, and it's gargantuan.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Every time I think of that dynamic between like the guy with the sword trying to hit the thing that is like monstrously huge, and it just doesn't work out for me. I was like, yeah, I guess if your fighter decides to use the ballista to attack it,
It's kind of like me trying to kill you by stabbing you with a toothpick over and over again, but not even. It'd be more like,
I have my hand like this holding you back, and you're trying to swing the toothpick at me.
It's like the house cat trying to attack you with a toothpick.
yeah.
And even that might be, not a good enough proportion.
Well, it might be. It's like a house cat trying to kill you, right? Like, okay, so cats, just regular house cats, a wild cat is friggin' nasty.
Mm-hmm.
If you try and move it, touch it, or do anything to it that it doesn't want done, you are in for a world of hurt. That being said, you will not die. Like, its ability to actually kill you isn't very good. Like, it would have to run up you and like attack your neck or something.
Go for the jugular.
And that's what it would be like fighting. But so you'd have to even go smaller. It'd be more like a hamster.
Killing you.
Yeah, it'd be like a hamster trying to kill you, right?
You'd be like, kick.
That sure they could bite
Fling.
you.
Yeah, fling.
And they've got fling right
Yeah.
Well, nice. When you actually do manage to hit you, they're going to do 3d6 plus 10, and then they can chuck you with
Yes.
one of their actions, and they get 3 of those around where they can tentacle you, which insta grapples you.
And they could chuck you into other party members.
Yes.
Right.
So doing lots and lots of damage that way. I was talking with Ted earlier. It's like, yeah, it can break part of your ship off, and then break your ship with the part of the ship it broke off.
Yeah.
It's like you're not sailing anywhere, and you're sunk.
And they're siege monsters, so they do double damage to
Well, that is kind of funny
objects.
for it to rip off the mass, and then it's like sticking a toothpick in something.
And it does double damage to objects and buildings. So
Yep.
structures. So I mean, it's really just smashing everything,
It's smashing
and then it's taking people and smashing them into things.
So speaking of that, I would say when doing a legendary encounter like this, be visual, like do things that are going to engage the scenery, because this thing really can tear apart anything that's around it. So I would say I would have no problem with it saying, okay, well, instead of attacking you, I'm going to go knock through a building, with my tentacle attack and grab a boulder and fling the boulder at a party member. A piece of the building. Like, oh, that thing was made of stone. How cute. Pff, chuck.
Yeah, so I would further complicate it by that idea of, okay, like let's say it's coming out of the water. It's got 30-foot reach. It can be in the water where a place where a player can't stand and attack it without swimming to try and attack it, and it can still hit people. And like Ted said, the idea that you're deciding to move back and throw missile weapons at it. All right, well, it's going to throw a missile weapon at you.
This boat.
It will throw about 3 60-10, monstrous things at you. Yeah, like the boat, a boulder from a building, or a section of a castle. It can just tear it down and just start chucking it at you.
Now, it's Lightning Storm or Fling DC. If you've got a Dex-based character that's proficient in dexterity, those kind of characters are not going to have a problem. But if you've got, a wizard or fighter that have dumped Dex,
it doesn't even have to be a dump Dex. If you're just a guy who has the Dex, like a +4 to Dex, it's still a 19 plus.
So
you gotta make.
You gotta have
an 18 Dex and not have the Dex save, and it's still a 19 plus.
And even their Fling DC, it would be a 14 plus.
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot. So
while you guys are talking, and I just had this imagery pop into my head of starting off a campaign with maybe the backstory of, say you have a party that's from the same region, and as children they witness a Kraken attack, which totally destroys the city, and perhaps one of them has the urchin background because of this, because it just watched his parents get crushed in front of them, and they're looking up, and the Kraken is right there in their face, and it's just a giant eye, which is the size of the child, and it just sees its reflection in the eye, and they have the urchin background, and they go on to become a warlock, and that's the last thing they see is the creature as it just sinks back into the water, because these things they have alien mindsets. You don't know why they do what they do. Their memories stretch on into infinity, and as well their plots and ploys. So part of what they did there was they just came and they took someone for a warlock, and now
that was their objective.
Yeah, because they see something in the future. I just see that as being a crazy opening scene.
That's a phenomenal
for a campaign.
Phenomenal backstory.
So I don't know, things that pop into my head. That's why I love this game. It entertains my madness.
Yeah.
So did we destroy this one?
I don't know. If it comes back, we'll be destroyed for certain. It's no to ask.
So what do you guys think? If we missed any cool details or there's anything you want to share, go ahead and put it in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, even subscribe.
Remember, you guys can always help us out and support us over on Patreon. Even $1 a month helps.
You can also join the conversation over on Reddit.
So until next time, stay nerdy.